All right, everybody, welcome. Thank y'all for coming here today to another How You Talk. Thank y'all for joining online or those who are watching this video after the fact. Today, we are talking about future stewardship and the importance of taking responsibility for our future, knowing that we're here to prepare for our future. How many of y'all remember in school or in your math class, primary math class, middle school math class, talking about the magic penny and the option of choosing $1 million or a magic penny that doubles in value every day? Well, let's play that out. I want to remind you of that story in case you forgot that the magic penny story of Miss Minnie and Miss Johnson. Miss Minnie and a billionaire, he had this experiment he wanted to see. So he found these two ladies at the grocery store. One was named Miss Minnie, one was named Miss Johnson. He offered them a choice to take a penny that magically doubled every day, or for a month, or $1 million. And his goal was to find somebody that would take the penny. Let's see what happened. Well, Miss Minnie took the $1 million day one, and Miss Johnson took the penny that doubled in value magically. And what happened was Miss Minnie, who took that $1 million, changed her life. Sort of, kind of. You know, she immediately went, paid off all her debt, got her a new house, renovated her house, bought a car, gave some money to her children. If we look at it on one way, she had $1 million is about 30 years salary of $100,000 a year. That's not that much money. Well, let's look at Miss Johnson, who chose the penny that doubled in value. Day 5, she had 16 cents. Day 10, she had about $5. By day 5, Miss Minnie with her million is already posting pictures of her new life. Day 15, she got about $162. 15 days later, as she's watching Miss Minnie on Instagram, she's already in her cruise. And she's already had her work done on her house and maybe her body, her face. Here's where it gets interesting with the magical penny. It takes till day 21 before there to be some real results. But on day 21, Miss Johnson has $10,000 because something happens around day 15. And by day 21, she has 10,000, still not as much as that million. But by day 25, she has 167,000. And by day 31, she has about $10.7 million. Now, what's the difference between 10.7 million versus 1 million? Again, 1 million, if we put it in the salary, that's $100,000 a year for about 30 years. Not bad. But 100,000, but 10.million is $100,000 salary for 100 years. That's a lot of money. And the idea about the compound interest and the compound effect itself is really how all of life unfolds. All the spiritual teachers, all the spiritual traditions, all the sacred texts reveal to us that life and our choices really unfold day to day like the magic penny story, with the compound effect. And the issue is why this is important to us and what this relevance is that most of us day to day, because of our society, our culture, our conditioning, we truly underestimate small choices. We underestimate our small habits. We underestimate our delayed consequences, delayed blessings. And we really undermine how every action or inaction is quietly constructing our personal futures, our collective future, and even our spiritual cosmic future after the earth. And we are scaffolding our future for ourselves, for others, and for our soul's sake afterwards. The scriptures of all sacred traditions stress, as Paul stressed in the book of Galatians in chapter 6, verses 7 through 9, he says, a man reaps what he sows. God is not to be mocked. In other words, the law of the universe, the laws, the system will not be played. You will reap what you sow. Jesus always encouraged people, as it was illustrated or announced in the Gospel of John, always encouraged his disciples and all of his followers, bear fruit that will last. Put in the work now that you can produce the big harvest. And Paul is also encouraging us in Ephesians, stressing to us always being careful with our time, redeeming the time for the days of evil. This idea being, make sure that we're making the best choices with our time, our energy, that invest, that can produce the best outcome for ourselves personally, collectively, and especially at the earth. And today I want to just break down, what does it look like for future stewardship? What does it look like to take our responsibility for setting up our futures on a personal level in our mundane day-to-day existence, but also just our responsibility to our beloved communities, our society, our world, our planet, and also cosmically, spiritually. And I want to break this down in 3 points to help us really grasp what it means when we talk about future stewardship: seeds, sowing, and seasons. Seeds, sowing, and seasons. Everything begins in a seed form. Everything begins in a seed form. Our thoughts starts as seeds. Thoughts are seeds. Ideas that people suggest to you are seeds. Suggestions from appearances are seeds. Habits are seeds. Jesus gave this analogy in Matthew 13 where he talked about a mustard seed, the parable of the mustard seed. It's the smallest seed in all of the plant kingdom, in all agriculture. A mustard seed is so tiny. It is so tiny. And the fact that, it's tiny, but that seed, as Jesus reckoned it to, compared it to the spiritual kingdom and just how the world works, when it is planted, it grows into be this tree. And that tree, not just is that tree producing shade, but it produces life, it produces habitat. But this is how everything is in our life is. The smallest condition, the smallest seed, when taking it and ingest it in our hearts, in our day-to-day actions in our world, it is going to produce something very, very important. Your thoughts and your words and your deeds are our seeds. Other people's thoughts, other people's suggestions, right? When it comes to our thinking, we all are familiar with the in this new age terminology, these new age cliches on social media, wherever you see that thoughts become deeds, or your thoughts become your beliefs, beliefs inform your habits, habits your character, and your character determine your future. So we're well equipped, and we well are anchored in understanding how everything is a seed. But what I want to talk about is the seeds of the supreme loyalties that start today. We always talk about the 4 absolutes here at the CAYA Church, and I've done probably maybe a week job of really stressing the 4, what I call the 5 supreme loyalties. And today I want to introduce them to you as seeds, and that is sincerity and truth-telling. And the reason why sincerity and truth-telling is a seed, because when you start telling the truth, what happens when you start telling the truth? It demands more truth-telling. This is why most people lie. And this is why most people refuse to tell the truth, because there's a part of us that knows, if I tell you the truth about that, I'm going to have to tell you the truth about that. Then I have to tell you the truth about that. And then I got to remain in the truth about that. Sincerity breeds and demands more truth telling. But also, truth telling is a seed that is always, always, always going to deliver you in the end. It is a seed that is always going to deliver you because the truth will always set you free, keep you free, and be a lasting ingredient that leads to your health, your happiness, and your sanity. Truth telling is a seed. Truth telling is a seed. Telling the truth about yourself to yourself, telling the truth about to yourself about others, and telling others the truth about you. When I say telling others the truth about you, I'm talking about in what they most need to know to arrive at the most appropriate conclusions. Not just telling them all your business, but it is telling others, informing others of the truth about you that allows them to arrive at the most appropriate conclusions. Because there's this thing that we like to do where we know we have not shared enough information where others are arriving. Matter of fact, we're contriving and withholding information to manipulate people to not arrive at the right conclusions. And that is a very sincere form of being a liar, is when you know that you're not communicating in a way that allows people to arrive at the most appropriate conclusion. Sincerity is a loyalty. It is a loyalty and it is a seed. And if you sow that seed, it will always produce for you, in the end, sanity, health, and long-term happiness or peace, because it keeps you free. The other loyalty is confession. And confession and sincerity goes together. The other loyalty is forgiveness. Forgiveness. Number 2 is forgiveness. Forgiveness and atonement, it goes hand in hand. Because atonement is doing what you need to do to make peace with your past. It's your moral inventory. It's you receiving whatever proper reconciliation you need to make for your bad choices, your past mistakes. Here's the thing with atonement. Atonement is giving yourself forgiveness, but it's also doing whatever is the required act, the required deed that you need to do to get yourself in a place of back in harmony. Back in atonement means, if you look at the word itself, it's at one meant, getting you back integrated within yourself. Because what happens is there are times that we don't tell the truth. There are times that we have not done the right thing. And a lot of times we do it because we're ignorant. We just don't know any better. Sometimes we don't really consciously lie. Sometimes we're not consciously making bad choices. But in time, life always reveals to us the truth. Truth is always going to be revealed. And when revelation comes, in tarot, we call it a judgment card. And the judgment card represents those universal experiences that we all have where the truth that we weren't aware of, everything is revealed. Not just truth, but the fact of a choice that you made that you weren't sure was the right choice. There's going to be a day where you're going to know whether it was the right choice or the wrong choice, right? The way that you treated somebody. You may today didn't think that you treated them badly, but there's a time going to come and you're going to find that out. We all are going to be revealed. We all get revealed by the future in the truth. And in those moments, if you're a person of sincerity, if you're an evolving soul, one of the things that humbly happens to us is that we realize, dang, I was wrong. You realize you were wrong. There is no one in the flesh who can go year to year, if you're evolving, if you're being sincere, without recognizing, I was wrong. I was wrong about that action. I was wrong there. And some of our wrong actions require atonement. And what we're doing is we're just making peace and getting closure with acknowledging you were wrong. And that is atonement. Atonement is a seed. Because the reason why atonement is a seed, because when you have not yet acknowledged your mistakes from the past and reconciled them correctly, you are interfering, moving into the future clear and clean. And then the other part of atonement is when you do what you need to do to get correctness for yourself, it's also forgiving other people and no longer carrying, holding them to blame, holding them. Because as we all have heard many preachers say, when you're holding unforgiveness to another person, it's like fixing poison for them and then you drinking that poison. And so forgiveness and atonement is a seed. Another loyalty is prayer and meditation. Prayer and meditation is our ability to anchor and realign ourselves and our thoughts and our choices before we can with the four absolutes. Prayer is reminding ourselves about God's providership, reminding ourselves about our own responsibility, reminding ourselves about our needs. Prayer is simply just asking God for what you need. As Jesus' brother James said, you have not because you ask not. So many times we are just not asking God for what we want. And meditation is just being still enough and chewing and reminding ourselves of the truth about God. God is our Father in heaven. He will make sure no good thing has been withheld from us. It's our responsibility, and reminding ourselves of our duty to take care of other people. But meditation is literally chewing. It means to chew. It's chewing on what is truth. As we were encouraged in the book of Philippians to think on things that are true, think on things that are beautiful, think on things that are praiseworthy. That's what meditation is. Prayer meditation is a seed. And if you sow that seed daily, it will once again produce a harvest in you. The other loyalty, that's a seed that we may take for granted, is fellowship and service. Fellowship and service. Fellowship is coming together and allowing yourself to be there for another person and linking yourself up with like-mindedness. So many times because we refuse proper fellowship, we are denying ourselves an opportunity to express something that God has laid in our heart, which is sometimes to answer our own prayers. To answer our own prayers sometimes is right inside of us, but because we have nobody to express it to, we can't hear it. Because there's so many of us that need to express it and talk it out, and we can hear our own answers. There are so many things that happen for you this week, that happened to you this week, that happened in your experience this week, that weren't even for you, but it was for somebody else. And now you can't get that out of you. Now that experience don't make sense to you because you weren't able to share it within your community. And now you're missing out on an opportunity to experience beauty, symmetry, and God's mercy operating in your life. And now you just have an experience that you can't cash in and say, that was a beautiful experience that happened, so I can share this with my fellow person. So we have a seed that is sincerity and confession, a seed that is atonement and forgiveness, a seed that is prayer and meditation, a seed that is fellowship, contributive fellowship, and coming together. And a seed that all of these are seeds that when we sow those seeds and consistently sow those seeds, we're going to reap something. And these are quiet beginnings, but they produce strong future realities. The next is sowing. Sowing is actually when you are doing the work. And for sowing, I really want us to draw attention to the story of the foolish virgins, the 5 foolish virgins. Because sowing is really the root of, there's no one of y'all that's listening to me that's disagreeing with me about the actual seeds. We understand that all those seeds are important. But why are we not sowing seeds? It usually has something to do with like the story of the 5 foolish virgins. So Jesus gave this parable of the 5 foolish virgins who were being invited to a wedding banquet, but they had to wait for the bridegroom. They were part of the bridegroom's family, and the idea is like, y'all wait here. You can't go into the wedding until I come. But be prepared. I don't know when I'm coming. And make sure you have your lamp full with oil. Well, there was 5 virgins that had their oil reserved, and then there was 5 foolish ones who wasted their oil. And as their oil got wasted, they went back to town to get some more oil. And while they were gone, the bridegroom came, and they missed out into the wedding banquet. And oil is energy. Oil is energy. And so this parable is a parable about energy management. Because what happens is when it's time to sow the seeds, telling the truth is good, praying is good, fellowship is good, taking time for those things, you understand that. But what happens is most of us, our energy has been spent elsewhere. So when it is time to sow, when it's time to pray, when it's time to go to fellowship, we don't have the energy available. And that's what we say. I just don't have the energy for that. Because so many of us are confused and we have a misunderstanding about the availability of energy management. We don't realize that all of us have limited cubits of energy day to day. And whatever you're putting your energy in, you don't get it back from that day. This is why the Apostle Paul tells us redeem the time. So when you spend energy doing this, then you're like, okay, now I can't pray anymore. It requires energy, concentration to go deep to begin to ask and find out what you need. But you may spend so much time on the conversation, doing all these type of things. You may spend your energy in the wrong groups. And then you say, my social battery is low because you weren't sowing in the right group. So many of us understand the importance of seeds and the loyalties and the right things, but energetically, we have wasted our energy. And as Stephen Covey so beautifully illustrated in putting first things first and the circles of influence, when you don't focus your attention on the things that you can't control, on the things your responsibility, the more you are sowing your energy to the world concerns, to the political turmoil, to other people's issues that aren't even really asking for your help, when it's time for you to now go to work and sow the seed that you need, you don't even have the energy to sow. You don't even have the energy available to sow the seeds. Put in the work to do this, to do what you need to do. Whether it could be as simple as just your exercise, cooking right, eating right. All of these things require energy. And so much of what so many people are struggling when it comes to just taking care of their health, honoring their spirituality, is because they literally have energetically spent themselves on the wrong things. That this idea that we have unlimited energy. We don't have unlimited energy. And human design system reveals even the nuance of that. Some of us have limited energy to listen to other people. Some of us have limited energy to hold space. Some of us have energy to listen to talk. Some of us have limited energy when it comes to doing or not doing, knowing. There are so many things that we have limited energy of. And this is why that parable of the foolish virgins, Jesus tried to say, learn how to manage your energy well. Learn how to know when to say no, when to say yes. Know what is discerning when it is time to give your energy to something, because you're not going to have the right energy when it's time to sow the seeds, when it's time to go and put your seed to work, put these things into action. You can't, because you're energetically depleted, because you've already sown seeds elsewhere. That's the thing, you haven't even sown seeds anywhere. You just don't have any energy to do any sowing. And what happens is it's not just the good intentions that create the future for us, but it is the doing of the action. It's the doing of the work. And that requires energy, and that requires energy management. And then seasons. Harvest is going to come. You're going to have a season where what you have sowed or what you have not sowed is going to produce a fruit for you. It's going to produce something, or it won't be produced. But a season is going to come where you're going to be in need of that harvest. You're going to be in need of the peace and the freedom that truth telling can produce for you. You're going to be in need of what prayer meditation has produced for you. You're going to be needing that sanity of having your future, your past mistakes clean and clear through your forgiveness and atonement. A time is coming for all of us where seasons are going to reveal to us what we need. And there's a powerful story here in the parable of talents. Jesus gave a parable about a king who gave 3 people talents, energy. He gave one 10, one 5, and one 1. And we know the story. The one with 10 put it to work, he made 20. The one with 5 put it to work, he made 10. The person he gave 1 talent to, when the master came back and said, hey, what did you do? He says, I was afraid of you. And I know you didn't play, and I didn't want to make any mistakes. And so here's the 1 talent you gave me. I buried it, and here it is, just like you gave it to me. And that master said, you lazy, wicked servant. If you knew I was so fearful, if you knew that I was a hard taskmaster, if you knew I was going to be so ruthless, you should have put it in the bank so it would at least gain some interest. And he said, take his 1 and give it to the person who has 20. And the people standing by said, why would you do that? And Jesus gave this example. He says, to those who have will be given, and those who do not have, even what they don't have, be taken from them. That's the harvest that so many of us happen because we're not sowing seeds. And so we wake up and we're like, hey, God, it's 4 years later, or it's this time period later. I don't have this. I don't have this in my life. I don't have this. I don't have this. Well, what did you sow? Did you take any risk? Did you go, well, no, I ain't want to mess up. I ain't want to go out there. I don't want to try to lead somebody astray. I don't want to try to teach. I don't want to try to start that group and go, bro. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this out of fear. And that fear is really rooted in the inability to forget about ourselves. Because we're not practicing the loyalty, because we're not truth telling, we're not seeking to discern what God's will is for us to do day to day. And when it's time, we don't have anything. And now we're angry at God or the Creator because we're like, why is the rich keep getting richer? That person's already blessed. I don't have nothing. But you weren't taking action because you were not responsible. You were not taking consideration of your future and the seeds and the knowing that everything is building towards the future on a personal level, collective level, and then even the spiritual level. Now, here's another thing about the future harvest. Sometimes you can be acknowledging what the right seeds are. You can be acknowledging the loyalties. You can be taking your energy properly and working when you need to be working. And yet, on earth, other creatures have free will. And their free will, they can actually do evil against you. And Jesus addresses that. In the parable of the wheat and tares, in Matthew chapter 13, verse 24, there's a story about a man, a farmer, who in the right time, he got his seeds, he sowed, he did everything right. And when he went to sleep one night, his enemy said, I don't want him to prosper. So his enemy went and put some bad seeds, some wheat, put them in his field. Over time, when the harvest came, the servant said, hey, did you plant these bad seeds? What did you do? This is an ugly harvest. And he says, I don't know what happened. He says, my enemy must have came in and planted these seeds in here. And they said, well, let's root them all up. He said, no. Let them keep growing together. Because if we uproot them, we might take up some of the good wheat. But let them keep growing together. And in the harvest, what I'll do is I'll let as the sun gets hard and as they ripen, the ones that are real will last and the ones that are not will not last. So there's a mercy element here in this story where we realize is that there are times where other people will actually be sowing evil against you. The counter forces in your life will work against you. You're doing everything wrong, right? But that don't mean that you have to stop and do evil to overcome evil. But instead, God's mercy is saying, just keep going, Just keep moving. Don't worry. The real ones, the real work, the real fruit will outlast. But so many times we panic at that season and we're like, I did everything right. I did this right. I was using my energy properly. And now these evil people, this evil person betrayed me. They stole from me. These politicians are crooked. They took this away. And we're missing what's happening here. It's also, there's another story about the prodigal son, right? So we have moments where we have the talent, the man who didn't do anything. We have people who did something, but their enemy or the counter forces worked against them. But God's mercy said, don't worry, just keep doing good. In the end, it will show. And then you have our other bad choices, like the prodigal son. The prodigal son, he sowed some seeds. He took some seeds that he sowed, but it did not lead to life. It was the seeds that does not, in the sowing that does not reap health, happiness, and sanity. Instead, it left him, as an old pastor from back home used to say, broke, busted, and disgusted. So there's a lot of times where we are sowing the bad seeds in our life. We're doing things, and when our season comes, it leaves us in a reality where we feel broke, busted, and disgusted. But Jesus revealed mercy, because that prodigal son, he got real and he got really truthful. And he told the truth to himself about himself. I have failed. And then he told another truth. You know what? My father's servants eat better than me. He didn't try to deny it. He didn't say, well, this is still better than this. No, he said, you know what? I am at the lowest of lowest. Here I am eating this slop and my father's servants. I'm going to go home and I'm going to tell my father, let me work for him. And the father saw the son halfway and met him and restored him back into his power. That's a powerful story, because it lets us know the power of truth telling again. If you can tell yourself the truth, and the idea of confession and the idea of honoring, being reality where you're at, just knowing, you know what, this is my season. The prodigal son did not, he realized I'm giving exactly what I deserve, but I am going to at least try to get some type of mercy. And so there are times when you hit rock bottom and you've got to acknowledge that this season in your life came from your own doing, your own sowing, and you're reaping exactly what you got. However, there is always mercy. There's always mercy. Mercy is not even fully understood until we fully understood the idea of seeds sown in the season. Because this literally is the law of the universe. You reap what you sow. Karma. You put out, you get. But this is where mercy comes in. And this is why mercy is such a defining feature of God and in Jesus' ministry. And Jesus wanted people to be merciful. Because mercy is the ministry of God that says, you did not sow, but I'm still going to look out for you. Or you sowed something bad, but I'm going to minimize those consequences. Mercy is always there for us when we can acknowledge, you know what, I did not plant the right seeds. I did not get the right seeds. I did not plant the right seeds, but Father God, I'm in need of mercy. Mercy is always available. Mercy never ends. Jesus is constantly revealing a merciful creator. That right now, there are those of us that are living in a season where we are not even reaping the horrible consequences of our inaction. We're not even getting the full consequences of our bad choices. And then some of us are getting the overflow of other people's good choices and their good sowing. And mercy is so powerful because mercy is always available. This is why in Psalms 23, the most powerful prayer ends with saying, surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life. Because sometimes we don't know. So sometimes we're sowing bad seeds. Sometimes we have enemies that have deceived us. And sometimes we're just not taking action that we don't know that we're needing to take. And here comes a season where we don't have, or a season where we have the very things that we don't want, or we have what we thought we wanted, but it's something that is killing us. But in that, there is still so much mercy. There's so much mercy to work it out for us. Reminds me of the story that y'all may have heard about a farmer who had a well. He had a well where it was like a water hole, but the water hole had dried up. And he had a donkey fall into that well. And he had no way of getting that donkey out. And what he realized was that it would be better to sacrifice the donkey and fill the hole up than to have the other animals fall in that hole and lose them too. So he decided to go fill the hole up. And so he goes and he's out there shoveling dirt to fill in that hole. And that donkey is looking up, and the donkey just shaking the dirt off. And after shaking so much dirt off, what happened was the donkey began to shake the dirt off, and the dirt would fall off, and the donkey was able to rise up from that hole and hop out of there. And what that is in life is that there are a lot of times where we have counter forces, and their evil are seeds against us. And it feels like their seeds of evil are compounding to work against us. And it looks like, wow, I'm really being buried underneath the evil forces. And so instead of seeing a magical penny compound, we're seeing more and more and more bullshit thrown at us. And it looks like, man, I'm not getting anything good. But if you just keep staying in sincerity, prayer, meditation, forgiveness, discerning what God's will is for you to do, staying in fellowship, sowing the good seeds, and shaking off the bullshit, what you realize is fertilizing something for you. It's fertilizing your salvation. It is paving the way for your deliverance into the exact life, the exact world that you are craving and wanting so bad to be filled with. The very freedom that you want, if we just trust and let God's mercy work and don't return evil for evil, don't lose our hope, don't lose our disencouragement. And so in conclusion, little things become large things over time, both good and bad. Consequences compound, wisdom even compounds, but there is always mercy and grace that never, ever, 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 ever stops. And that mercy is demonstrated in the story of Jesus, when Jesus refused to get up his mission of nonviolence. He refused to give up his mission of speaking the truth. And he was obedient to what he believed the Father gave him to do, which was to reveal the Father's nature, even if it went against the mainstream religious tradition and the religious norms of that day, even if it upset the political powers that be. He did not waver. And he was obedient even till death by crucifixion on the cross. But in God's mercy was able to raise him from the dead. And that story of Jesus down on that cross, out of that love that he had for his mission and out of the Father's love for him, we are able to see and demonstrate the life of the mercy, the life of the Father's mercy for us. And that in that mercy that was demonstrated, the Father used that cross, used Jesus' death on that cross to give us something to humanity. Not that he willed Jesus' death on the cross. That was mankind. That was evil forces demanded that Jesus died on that cross. Not the Father, not the Creator. But he took that cross. He took Jesus' death on that cross. And he allowed us humans to have an atonement for us in our error and our mistakes. Because our human psyche, we just do not like people getting off the hook for free, and we don't like ourselves to get off the hook for free. Because for most of us, when we have a real offense done to us, and we really offended ourselves, especially when we have a real offense done to us, sorry just ain't enough. We need somebody to pay. We want a payment. We want something paid. We do it to others and we do it to ourselves. When we really recognize that we were wrong and offended, when we really know we blew it, our human psyche just wants a payment. And God in his mercy said, I'll let y'all use Jesus' death on the cross. It's a sacrifice, it's a killing, and it can cover all your error, all your sin. Not that he willed it, but he had mercy for our psyche, our limited nature. Because a lot of times we just can't forgive ourselves. We can't forgive ourselves. We feel like something must die. And when somebody else is offended us, we just don't take their sorry. But Jesus' death, his factual death on that cross, can be enough that if we receive that death for our sins, for our error, and we receive that death as a payment for the sins of those who sinned against us, we can move forward clearly in our future, and we can start sowing a clear seed for our future. And I'm going to pray on that. Thank you, Father, for this message. Thank you for those who showed up. Thank you for those who are listening to this in the future. Thank you for giving us the clarity and the wisdom to know what are the proper seeds today we need to start planting, how we can manage our energy better to go out and do the proper sowing. And when our season comes, may we humbly know how to receive with gratitude or needing to ask for mercy, to share our seasons, to be honest with our seasons, for your mercy. And we ask even now for forgiveness of those times. We thank you for allowing us to use Jesus' death as a forgiveness for our own error in those times of our own inaction or our own bad sowing. And we use that as a way for us to receive and appropriate your mercy, to cover our lives for the times that we have not sown properly, for those that have sowed evil seeds against us, and for those moments where we have just sown seeds of things that we did not want. We now ask for your mercy and your grace to cover us and to cover all of us for years to come, as we now seek to put more faith and trust in sowing the seeds of our sincerity and truth-telling, our seeking forgiveness and atonement, our prayer and our meditation, discerning daily what your will is, and staying in fellowship and service to one another. Amen. So be it, and it is. Thank y'all all for coming today.